Okay, so there's been a few questions about how I calibrate the head tracker. First thing I want to do is write the firmware onto it. Before I get started, I should mount my head tracker in the wherever I want it to be, whatever its final location is. In my case, I just put it right here. I powered it through the Digi adapter, the little port in the top, but however you want to do it, that's up to you. So once she's mounted in its final location, everything's powered up, we're going to write the firmware to it. To do that, we're going to open up the app. We're going to go firmware, upload firmware. I'm going to pick my most recent one and click program. And it's just waiting for us to plug it in right now. If it was already plugged in, you can either just unplug it, plug it in again, or just hit the reset button on the top. Works too. As soon as I plug it in, it should detect the new port. Should put it in bootloader mode. You should see the light change right there, and it should flash the firmware. Now, one thing to do right here, if you don't touch it and just leave it stable when we do the next step. So if I hit refresh up here, found it's COM29, we'll click connect. And then I'm going to click calibrate. So what it's doing right now, it's going, it's dropping. As soon as these values hit approximately these numbers, the gyro calibration is pretty close. So as soon as that last decimal point kind of stops moving, you're close enough. I'm going to click next there. Now that's the point. If you leave it stable when you boot it up, these numbers are already going to be pretty close, and it'll save you a lot of time. If you shake it around a lot, it's going to take longer. Okay, so the mag cal. So all you got to do for this, just wave it around and around and around and around, all sorts of directions. So just kind of look at the sphere. Let's go, oh, there's points on that side. Down right there, a few more points over there. Eventually, once you get enough, it'll just tell you can save. There we go. Save, and we're done. Now, one thing, there is a little bug in version 2.1. If I look at it right now and just reset center, it might drift on me. See how it's drifting right now? So that's due to the way, because we just completed a calibration, it didn't go through its initial startup sequence. Has been fixed, but it's not on this recent release. We're going to click Save Settings and Reboot. When it boots up, it figures out its initial orientation with those new calibration values. And you should see it's fairly stable now. So even if I turn the gain up quite high, twist it a little bit, it should stay there. Now that's one point I've noticed, that little bug. Even though by the time you got to the field it would have been fine, it throws a lot of people off. Now, if you are having problems, if you can't get this calibration to complete, I'm just going to go in here again. So see how we started up? Oh. See how we started up really big numbers there? It's because I was moving it around. So when you start a calibration, if I leave it still and then start it, that step gets a lot quicker. So I go calibrate. So these values are already pretty darn close to where they should be. I'll pretty much click next. Once again, around. I'm trying to figure out where the dots are on the screen is a little fun at times, but let's put them over there. There it is. There they are. All right. And save. And then save settings, reboot. Now, if when you turn it on, you see it drifting, see here. Sometimes if I was to reboot that while I was in the motion of moving it, it might find its initial orientation here, so it might drift its way back to that spot. Usually if you let it sit for a second, just twist it around back and forth, everything should be good. So, one way to check it, if you crank this gain up, I mean this is really high, but and you twist it a bit, it should in theory stay there. It might drift a little more at those really high gain settings. I mean that's you're going full scale from there to there. That's not much head movement at all. Most people are going to be running quite a bit lower down around here. That's going to be more of your range of motion. If you can't get this calibrate to complete, I'm just going to skip this step just to show you. So, just skip it here. You grab a magnet. I'm going to need to give me a magnet here. Just going to toss it on my desk. And do a calibration here. I moved it, so I gotta wait a while. Okay. If I try to calibrate around this magnet, it will still try to compensate for it. Where is it? Right there. You see how much longer it's taking to get the calibration complete too? Some of the dots are all over the place. It's a lot harder to complete because I've got this big interference right here. What I want to show you is if I do get it to complete, which I may not be able to. See, they're just all over the place. I might figure it out though. If it's taking you this long to get it done and you're seeing these dots like off the side, something's not quite right. You got something magnetic, some steel too close to it, something like that. Okay, so it finally did figure it out. Okay, so if I do what I normally do, save settings, reboot. So in theory, as long as I stay near this magnet, everything is going to work great. As soon as I take that magnet away, let's turn the gain up so we can really see it. As soon as I take that magnet away, she's starting to drift towards the middle. See how slow it corrects itself, even though that's a really large magnet? Doesn't take much. On the front of my old goggles, I had it mounted up here. There was zero way you could use it. It was on the EV200s, had them mounted right on the front. It wasn't even possible to calibrate it. There was so much interference, nothing worked. Anyway, that's kind of one of the things I wanted to note. Keep as much metal away from you can. When you do the calibration, it's trying to compensate for all these external fields. So if we calibrate and then take one of those items away, or say if we start with the board by itself, we start calibrating like this, and then we bring it up to something in the goggles that's magnetic, we have the same problem. You're calibrating, and then you're putting it in a different situation. Magnetometers are a bitch. They suck. They're super sensitive. Earth field's not strong enough. But anyway, yeah. There we go.